This program is brought to you by the Genesis Communications Network, a world leader in talk radio since 1998. Visit GCNlive.com today.
Broadcasting and streaming live all across America. This is HomeTalkUSA with Michael King, where we will discuss topics pertaining to your home with industry-leading experts. Michael King is a licensed general contractor with more than 30 years of experience in home improvements and the author of Contracting with the King. Join us this hour for our segment Invent America with your co-host, the Inventor Lady, Rita Crompton. Discover what's next in the home improvement industry and explore new products and innovations. Or if you have that next great big idea, learn what it takes to bring your invention to the world. As Michael King and Rita Crompton talk to America's inventors and innovators. Remember, the America of tomorrow is being invented today. We invite you to visit us at HomeTalkUSA.com, one of the best resources for home improvement information around today. Your best life begins with your best home, and there's no place like Home Talk. That's HomeTalkUSA.com. And now, we proudly present Invent America from the #1 home improvement radio program in the country, Home Talk USA, with your host, the Cajun contractor, Michael King, and his co-host, the Inventor Lady, Rita Crompton.
Hey, welcome America. That's right. We got that big countdown. This is episode 1050. As you know, around November, early part of December, we're going to probably become, we are going to become the longest running home improvement radio program in radio history. So we got the big countdown. The other couple shows that started when we started many moons ago are no longer broadcasting. So we've got, I think, 40 episodes left or 42 episodes left or something like that. But we're trying to get a real count. Once we get that real count and make it official, we're going to be putting out a big press release. So we're excited. But welcome all of you to Home Talk USA radio program. It's all about education and information. But this is a segment of Home Talk where we do the Invent America, where we talk to inventors. We kind of like... there's a lot of inventors out there, and we want to kind of make it organized, and that's why I went to one of my favorite guests in the past, Rita Crompton. They call her the Inventor Lady, to say, hey, I think instead of having these interviews all over the place, let's just gather them all up at one time and actually do a show of it. But hey, let's talk about that. She's on the line right now, my co-host of the Invent America show, the Inventor Lady herself, Miss Rita Crompton. Hey, Rita, how you doing?
I'm doing well, and it is so much fun to be on. This is the highlight of the week. Is we get a show on, we get information out there to our inventors all over the place, and help them understand. We can give them the next steps, and so when they go then to our database and look in our archives, they can say, all right, this is the stage I'm at. And I've had so many inventors tell me that's exactly what they do. It's like, I need information on this thing right now. And they go and they look for us. And then they'll listen to us on the show. And it's like, oh, now I know to go back and look for something else. So we're able to help inventors get through the process safely and with the least amount of wasted money.
Now, you want to talk about a new topic. What is it? Tell the inventor's panic attack? What now? What is that? I like that. What is that? I'm panicking. Oh, my God, I don't know what to do.
I know, right? Inventors are so much just like, oh, my God, I didn't think of that. And it's like, are you kidding me? What now? What's going to happen next? And I hear that all the time. And, at some of the inventor roundtable meetings, I've had inventors sharing and, they're talking to each other. And it's like, I know, man. It's like, what do you mean I got to have, a $50 million, product liability insurance? And it's like, what do you mean I got to file another patent? And it's like, are you kidding me? I had no idea there was such things as a manufacturer's prototype. So today we've got a couple of inventors that are going to, help with, share their panic attack. How do they get by it? What do they do? And then our industry expert is going to share with us how he helps inventors, because they license products. So, when he gets an inventor and he tells them a problem and he goes, okay, and they're saying, oh my God, are you kidding me? And he says, he can help them walk through the panic attack.
Well, that actually happened. I'm glad you brought that up about that product liability. That actually happened. I think we did that interview about, 2 months ago, 2.5 months ago? That actually happened when this person, this company, this inventor came up with a real good technology, and he was ready to launch it and then bought. He got the shock of his life because he couldn't produce it because it was what he did was required by federal law to have like a $50 million liability policy. I
know, it was crazy. No store would carry it for him. They loved it. Loved it. And he had gone into manufacturing. And he goes, if I had known this 6 months ago, I would have made some different decisions. But he did get then product liability insurance.
Yeah, but ordinarily he'd have to get it licensed, let somebody else do it. But that's what we're talking about here. We want you to give you all the facts, huh, Rita?
That's right. And so when you know going into it that this is what you have to look at, you make better business decisions. And it's like I always say, it's like having an invention is like having a child. You conceive it, you nurture it, it sucks you dry, you throw it out.
Yeah.
And until it grows up big and you can throw it out, it is not going to take care of you. So we look at then, how do we avoid, the mistakes by having the inventors prepped? And different industries have different requirements for product liability.
Yep. Well, I'm excited. I haven't had a chance to talk to you about it, but we just signed to do this year's International Building Show, the hardware show in Las Vegas in February. So we will be there. It's official. See, I'm springing that on you right now, so you don't even know that.
I know, you are. And we have got our 600 square feet for the National Hardware Show. So we're looking for inventors. If you want to show off, the National Hardware Show is
the place to be.
It's the place to be because it covers the most products, most consumer products that you would find at the big box store. So we're starting to fill our spots and get inventors lined up. And I'm kind of disappointed that they're not going to all be together again, but it was tough when they were all together.
Yeah, I got you. And I think you had like 24, 25 last year, something like 25?
Yep, we will have 35 inventors with us this year.
Well, good. That's a lot to choose from, and we're excited. And we're going to have all that on our website. We're going to be doing a press release that the Cajun Man is coming back to Las Vegas. So and I know we're going to do the show out of the Invent America booth also. So a lot going on.
Yep. We're going to have you right there. You've got your own space, and inventors will be able to come up and talk to you and do their interview with you, and they're looking forward to seeing you.
Oh, that's good. But, again, we got Mr. Dan Bauer and Bill Holley and Kevin Cody is going to be our guests when we come back off a break, right?
Yes, and both of these gentlemen are going to be at the National Hardware Show with us.
Wow. And what is your website again, the Invent America website again?
Inventamerica.info.
Inventamerica.info. Great. And you're
we
have
are
all that.
easy to find. Yeah, we are easy to find. You can do the HomeTalkUSA.com and get to us. You can do inventamerica.info, HomeTalkTV.com. I know there's a link there someplace. And, InventorLady.com is the main thrust of InventorLady.com these days is Invent America. So it's really easy to find. And we had last week one of the gentlemen who was on, it's like he was on because he went and he filled out the form and he goes, yes, wow. I did. And I said, thank you very much, because that's where I go to find my next guest.
Well, I'll tell you what, and then at the top of the hour before you break, you're going to be giving some information how you can get your product on the show. And we're not a paid network. We're not a broken network. We don't charge for our interviews. So you're going to have all that information. So a lot going on here on the Home Talk USA radio program network. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about Invent America and some of the Invent America guests here on the Genesis Communication Radio Network at GCNlive.com. I'm the Cajun Man alone with my sidekick and co-host, the Inventor Lady herself, Rita Crompton. We're both going to be right back. Yay!
USA with Michael King. Do you have questions about your next home improvement project or home repairs? Now you can chat with verified home repair and home improvement experts in just minutes. Get the help you need by visiting HomeTalkUSA.com. One of the best resources for home improvement information around today. Your best life begins with your best home, and there's no place like Home Talk. That's HomeTalkUSA.com. And now, back to Invent America from the #1 home improvement radio program in the country. Home Talk USA with your host, the Cajun contractor Michael King, and his co-host, the Inventor Lady, Rita Crompton.
Yahee! Welcome back to the only home improvement show dedicated to you, the American consumer. All right, Rita, who is our first guest?
Our first guest today is an inventor, Dan Bauer. He invented S.A.M, is how we refer to it, the Safe Alert Monitor. And Dan he's been an inventor of gadgets and worked with technology basically all of his life. And so he likes using that motion detector, and I'm going to let Dan tell you about the S.A.M, all right, Safe Alert Monitor, and what he's been doing with it, and then we're going to talk to him about the panic attack. So, Dan, thank you so much for being on with us today. Tell everybody about S.A.M.
Okay. Hi, Rita. Glad to be here. So I noticed collisions at restroom doors in my office building, and then I thought, well, why couldn't you have a motion detector to let you know somebody's getting ready to come to the other side of the door? And then I started seeing this problem everywhere, restaurants and bars and businesses. So I just dove in, and I developed a wired prototype on my kitchen table, just using a couple of cheap motion lights, and it worked. Basically, if I'm coming to one side of the door, a light and maybe a light and a beep happens on the other side of the door, so now you don't collide with each other. So then I took that idea to some local electrical engineers, and based on their feedback, instead of a wired device, we made a wireless device. So the product,
wonderful.
It's great. Yeah, 2 little units paired together wirelessly. Unit 1 sees motion outside the door and wirelessly communicates to Unit 2, and it immediately beeps, or it'll light up and beep. And the original idea was to put it on doors to kind of avoid collisions and add security. It requires no Wi-Fi, no cell phone, no app. They just talk to each other. So it's very simple. It actually work on a sailboat in the ocean. So the other thing, as I started working with it, it can be removed from the door, and it can be used anywhere. Like if you're doing an open house by yourself as a realtor, you can set a unit on the floor by the front door and take the other one with you. It also could provide small business security, or if parents want to know their kids are moving around, or if pets need to be let in. And it has a little security feature, so if you live in an apartment, before you leave the door, if it lights up, you can look through the peephole to see who's out there. So it's a cool product. I mean, we made the circuitry very compact, so it can be built into anything. We actually designed one where the restroom sign is actually the device. So it says restroom, and then if someone's approaching the other side, there's a light behind the restroom sign. It's real compact. And when I met you, Rita, I was referred to you by a 3D printing shop, and then I started the patent process with your help, and I've learned a lot.
Well, we're so glad, and I've enjoyed watching you grow. So I am sure that, over the few years that you have been working on this, you've had some panic attacks. It's like, oh, my God, what now? What else can go wrong? What else can happen? Can you share with our listeners, what it was that got your blood going, and then how you managed to work through it? Because you're going through with next steps.
Yeah, there were 2 of those. The first one, I mean, you realize you don't know so much about this when you start. There's more that I didn't know that I knew. The first was the attorney that did the first search actually missed that there was a competitor using a similar product and actually the exact same name I had envisioned. So I had to pivot and decide, can I still launch this thing? And what do I do with the name? So I had to do that very quickly. And the lesson learned is just do a little more research on my own. Don't just rely fully on the attorneys. Do my thing. And the next was, my device is a electric device using wireless, and that means complexity. Like, I didn't realize how complex it was going to be, and I ran into all kinds of things like battery life. There's FCC certification. The electrical engineering is very expensive, having that stuff designed, any kind of logic that's being coded into a circuit board. And then if you want to use the Bluetooth name, you got to pay for that. So that was very overwhelming, and it really tested my determination to keep going. My belief that it's a good idea keeps me going. I realized I just didn't know how much this was going to cost. And the big thing is, the lesson learned is if it's a good idea, you should go for it. Swing for the fences, but there's so many learning experiences. Expect that it's going to cost more than you think. It's more complex than you think. It's going to take longer to get a patent than you think, because the patent is a very iterative process. It goes back and forth. And then basically the whole process will test your commitment as an entrepreneur.
It certainly does. I mean, I always tell inventors, it's like, all right, when you get your, what you think are going to be the costs and your time frame, double it.
Yeah.
And then you're not going to be in, panic attack mode when you figure, okay, well, I figured it was going to take me, 2 years to do this, and it's taking me 3.5, that you've adjusted for that already in your head. And, okay, so I thought I could do it for $10,000, but it's getting, by the time you get all the engineering done and the patent stuff done, you're pushing, 15 to 20. And it's like,
right.
But Rita told me to plan for this, so now I'm not in such a panic attack, even though I don't like it.
Right. That's true. Yep.
So what's next, Dan? What are you looking at doing on your next step? Share with our listeners so that they know, with some due diligence on their own part, they can get there.
Yeah. So I'm being patient and moving forward with Safe Alert Monitor. I'm working to get it in front of potential licensees, because what I would like to do is to partner with someone who has the resources to continue the development and make it market ready. Get it to a manufacturing state and marketing and all of that. So I'm following up on leads from the past hardware shows and joining another hardware show in the future, and just getting the word out. Trying to follow up with contacts that I've made, and I've put together a YouTube video and a website, and trying to get exposure that way. Although it's not really ready for the market, and then I kind of use what I've learned. I started another product which is analog and simple, and I can actually make it at home. So I'm kind of practicing a little bit with that product too.
Well, good. Well, I've got some suggestions for you. So when we get you on video where we can show your product, we're going to talk about some of the next things that you can do. But give everybody your website.
Great. I appreciate it very much. The website is safealertmonitor.com.
And you can go and see what Dan's been doing, what he's been working on, and then we're going to do some video, hopefully later this week, early next week, where we will have then actually people can see you, they can see what you're doing, and we'll talk more about then some next steps that we can help you with. All righty?
Sounds good.
All right.
Yep.
Thank you so much, Dan. And for anybody who wants to be on the show, go to HomeTalkUSA.com or inventamerica.info, and the form will be right there. All you got to do is just fill it in. It drops right into my email box. And if you are out there working on something and you need a reputable service provider, call me. Email me. We've got some really good ones, and we are more than happy to give out their information so that you don't get taken advantage of.
Welcome back to Home Talk USA with Michael King. Do you have questions about your next home improvement project or home repairs? Now you can chat with verified home repair and home improvement experts in just minutes. Get the help you need by visiting HomeTalkUSA.com. One of the best resources for home improvement information around today. Your best life begins with your best home, and there's no place like Home Talk. That's HomeTalkUSA.com. And now, back to Invent America from the #1 home improvement radio program in the country. Home Talk USA with your host, the Cajun contractor Michael King, and his co-host, the Inventor Lady, Rita Crompton.
Hey, everybody, we want to give a big shout out to Genesis Communication Network for giving us a home so that we are able to present Invent America to all of America, because America invents. We always have. We solve problems. And we do it one product at a time. My next guest is Bill Holley from Florida. So we do manage to get across the country. Dan was from Colorado, and our next one is from Tennessee. So we cover every state in America, which is why we call it Invent America. Anyway, Bill Holley is my guest today. He invented a new hammer. So, Bill, thank you so much for joining us today. Would you tell everybody a little bit about Easy Hammer?
I would indeed. The Easy Hammer is an improvement on the hammer, which is basically the same as it's been for many, many, many years. And the essence of the thing is that it causes the user to rotate the forearm about 90 degrees toward the inside of the body, which changes the wrist flex entirely. If you take your hand and you have the normal grip for a hammer, you have the radius above the ulna, and if you flex that wrist, you notice that it's very limited. If you rotate it 90 degrees toward the inside of your body, you notice that the wrist flex changes tremendously. When you apply that to the handle of a hammer, it opens up the wrist flex, it better aligns the tool with the forearm, and that causes a number of good things. A little more power, a little more accuracy, et cetera, et cetera. Is that a good description?
That's a very good description. I love that, because the more often I hear you say those things, the more it rings true in my head, because I use a hammer on a pretty regular basis for a variety of things. And I never really paid much attention to it, Bill, until you started talking to me about it. It's like, oh, my goodness, he's exactly right, that I start noticing the way I hold it. And then you sent me a sample, and it's like, okay, well, now I get it, because now I keep that hammer out all the time. I love it. I love it. Looking forward, I have to, wear a belt when we're at the hardware show, so I can wear one of your hammers with me. I'll take it all with me all the time. So anyway, what we're talking about today is that darn, what now moment that you had, and how'd you get through it? So share with our listeners your darn moment.
Well, like many people, I really bought into the old idea that if you build a better mousetrap, the world will beat a path to your door, but that's not true. The easy part of things like my hammer is doing the idea and then getting the patent. The rest of it is in my opinion, harder, because when you begin to try to do licensing or to sell your patent, you run into a whole lot of things that simply do not work, including a lot of people who want a lot of money up front for vague promises and very little performance. Does that make sense?
Oh, it does, and you're exactly right. When I tell inventors, it's like, all right, when you're looking at your budget, look at doing, your product evaluation, your search and everything getting teed up, the patent, the design work, the manufacturing work, and that goes on one side of the line, and then all of your marketing and sales stuff is going to cost that much or more. And when I get inventors that say, well, I can't afford to have a patent, then it's like, if you can't afford the patent, you can't afford any of this.
You're absolutely right. By the way, when dealing with some of those folks who ask for a lot of money for vague promises, I've found that a couple of questions really, really tends to separate out those who are really after your money and not going to do anything for you. And that is, tell me about your recent successes. And many times they go away.
Yes. And one of the things that, I always look at and what I tell inventors to watch for is that if they're giving you an invoice up front before they've done anything.
Yeah.
Now, within reason on that, yes, attorneys are going to charge, and most of them want a retainer or they send an invoice for their estimate. Okay, we get that. But with like an engineer, then you need a work for hire agreement, and it's got to say in the agreement the part where if they come up with any improvements, those improvements belong to you because they are work for hire. And I got so many inventors that don't even think about that. And it's especially if it's your first time around, you don't think about that. And then when it comes to marketing, a marketing company is going to send you an invoice whether you sell one or not.
Well, and I'm glad you went back to that, because one of the other things that to me is a big red warning flag is if those folks who want to market your idea telling you that it's the best thing since beer. One of the things that is a big red flag is they have in a little paragraph in their far too much in their side, in my opinion, to be able to proceed.
Yes. And I think, one of the things Invent America is absolutely dedicated to is to giving all of the inventors out there, and there's roughly 10 million inventors out there that have got an idea and saying, okay, what do I do? And so we want to be able to answer that for them with good information, good solid information that they can basically, they may not be taking it to the bank, but they're not spending any money on it. We're giving it away for free. And so we want them to learn from inventors like you on what are the next steps, what should they be aware of. So what advice do you have for our audience?
Well, number one, do not expect to find a whole lot when you want to do the licensing or to sell your patent. I've spent too much time and too much effort in that, and I have only recently decided that it really is a do-it-yourself project. And so my next step is to begin to approach the local merchants who sell products like my hammer, and to get their opinion about whether it would sell, and if it would sell, what kind of models would sell best, and what price it would be.
All right. I hear our calling card. We've got to go pay some bills. I will get you on some video, and we are going to show everybody about your easy hammers. Thank you, Bill.
You are most welcome. Thank you for having me on board. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks, everybody, for being with us, and stick around. We have got our industry expert coming up next.
HomeTalkUSA with Michael King. Do you have questions about your next home improvement project or home repairs? Now you can chat with verified home repair and home improvement experts in just minutes. Get the help you need by visiting HomeTalkUSA.com. One of the best resources for home improvement information around today. Your best life begins with your best home, and there's no place like HomeTalk. That's HomeTalkUSA.com. And now, back to Invent America from the #1 home improvement radio program in the country, Home Talk USA, with your host, the Cajun contractor Michael King, and his co-host, the Inventor Lady, Rita Crompton.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for sticking with us as we go through the inventors' meltdown moments, because when you're going through this process, it's hard, and there are always surprises. So our industry expert for this session of the show is Kevin Cody. He is founder of FLI Products, and it is FLIProducts.com if you're interested in seeing all of the really cool things that they do. And after 20 years of being in manufacturing, distribution, and retail, Kevin decided, you know what, I'm going to take the next step. So he did. And Kevin, thanks so much for being with us. Tell everybody what you do.
Thanks for having me, Rita. I appreciate it. So we really come along small companies and help them focus their time and effort on getting a product to market. And we do it in several different ways and offer kind of a suite of different options that we can work on with them. But in the end, the idea is how do we get closer to getting a product onto the shelf wherever it might need to go. And we help them develop that, from plans to fruition.
So that's excellent. And I would imagine that over the years you've worked with inventors that, it's like, come up with, a reaction to something. You tell them, it's like, are you kidding me? What do you mean I have to do this?
Yeah.
So share with our listeners some of the stories that you've had over the years.
Well, I was just talking to somebody the other day, in fact, and they came with some products that were very interesting in health care, I would call it, or household products too. And they had some really interesting new technologies in that category. But one of the biggest challenges they had was really narrowing down who they wanted to go to market for first. The product had a rather broad application, and developing a focus rather than sort of a shotgun approach to seeing who's going to accept it first is really, really critical to think all the way through, because as you know, it defines your packaging, it defines who you are as a company, it defines the first impression that you make on a potential buyer. And so oftentimes the biggest challenge is really standing back and saying, okay, where am I going to develop the optimal market for what I need in terms of cash flow, in terms of the greatest amount of penetration and who the competitors are, and then backing away for a bit to say, this is who I really need to go after, and developing the product around that marketing channel.
Yeah, that's so right. I get in there and say, well, I'm going to have, 5 different colors and 3 different sizes, and it's like, no, focus. Right. You need to focus. Pick one color, whatever you think is going to be the most popular color, and then pick one size. And if you can't get to the market with that as being the number one, then you wouldn't get to market with 5, and you've just spent a lot more money.
Exactly. There's nothing wrong with having an assortment, because one of the other challenges that a lot of inventors have is they have 1 SKU or 2 SKUs. And to get recognition for a planogram, for instance, for that number of products is in getting recognized by a buyer is a challenge itself. But there's nothing wrong with having renderings of something that you think the product will blossom into, but being able to focus down on what you know is going to be the best item is really important.
Absolutely. So when how do you walk, inventors kind of off the cliff when you tell them something and they go, oh my God, are you kidding me? How do you go from their panic attack, which is usually dollar signs, to not being so. All right, we're going to have to save that, Kevin, for, our video. We're going to save that one. And I've got a really cool product I am going to bring to you that has actually been selling for the last 4 or 5 years. And it's a cleaning product, and it's really wonderful.
Fantastic.
So, thank you. It is. I love it, and he's getting ready to, hand it off to somebody. So thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Stay with us. We are going to wrap up this hour of Invent America in just a couple of minutes. And thanks for being with us, Kevin. Thank you again.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too.
HomeTalkUSA with Michael King. Do you have questions about your next home improvement project or home repairs? Now you can chat with verified home repair and home improvement experts in just minutes. Get the help you need by visiting HomeTalkUSA.com. One of the best resources for home improvement information around today. Your best life begins with your best home, and there's no place like HomeTalk. That's HomeTalkUSA.com. And now, back to Invent America from the #1 home improvement radio program in the country. Home Talk USA with your host, the Cajun contractor Michael King, and his co-host, the Inventor Lady, Rita Crompton.
Thanks, everyone, for being with us today for this section of Invent America, where we are reaching out to all of the inventors out there who've got an idea and don't know what to do next, and for all of the consumers out there that say, whoa, that is a really cool product. We will be posting those on our website. So please go to inventamerica.info or inventorlady.com, and you will be able to see the products and go out, and the ones that are for sale, get out there and support our American inventors by buying their products. And if you have got a product and you're ready to show off, join us for the National Hardware Show. If you're just getting started and need a service provider, please send me an email, give me a call. I do answer my phone, and I am more than happy to point you in the right direction of a reputable, good service provider. And with that, we are going to thank our sponsors, Kicker Design, who is a wonderful manufacturer, and CAD Design with Scott Carsey, who is going to help you get those first prototypes done. Thanks to all of America, and join us next week for Invent America, where America invents.
Home Talk USA with Michael King is produced by Home Talk Media in association with King's Broadcasting Network and Genesis Communications Network. Broadcast and streamed live from the great state of Louisiana. Host and producer, the Cajun contractor, Michael King. Executive producer, Michael Mellinson. Affiliate and sponsor relations, Joe Spera. Comptroller, Sheila Gregoire. Assistant producer, Christian Bethencourt. Board operators provided by Genesis Communications Network. And I'm your announcer, Kevin McCarthy. Music includes King's Creole by Prolific Arts, Cajun Jam by StockMusic.com, and Zydeco City by Steve Rice. Home Talk USA with Michael King is sponsored by Bonai, pest solutions for your home, garden, and lawn. Decorators, take outdoor living beyond ordinary. Aztec Washer, innovative roofing solutions. Seal it right, seal it tight. Trimislab, replace rotten or missing wood with Trimislab expansion joint repair. Masonry Cosmetics, change the color of any porous masonry with proven masonry staining. Green Products Company, #1 in wood preservatives. Preserve, protect, and clean what you value, and most of all, make it last. Bond Products, manufacturers of InstaBind, the world's first do-it-yourself carpet binding solution. Deckrite, life is tough. Make your exterior flooring tougher. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Home Talk USA with Michael King. Until next time, visit us at HomeTalkUSA.com. Your best life begins with your best home, and there's no place like Home Talk. That's HomeTalkUSA.com.
Yay!